Hi everyone. So this video is going to be in two parts. Watch till the very end. I'm going to unveil two new lines that we're going to be seeing very, very soon. As a matter of fact, one might arrive early next week. We're shooting this. This is today's what?
The 12th?
December the 12th, which is Tuesday?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. We might get one of those lines this week, and I'm very excited to talk about it. But anyway, somebody mentioned to me, you should do a video about lines that you don't carry but you really like. So let's go through those. There are lots of products that I like. I mean, there's a side of me who loves music and loves the technology. And then, of course, there's a side of me that balances that out and says, okay, those are great products, but is it something that you can represent? And our last video, I think it was the last video, I talked about 5 major criteria or 5 categories of criteria that I go through before I decide to carry a brand. So there's one side of me that's practical, very objective, that says, okay, can we do it? And then the other side of me goes, oh, I love that. I want to carry it. And thankfully, because I've got those two, I don't make as many mistakes as I used to. And thank God for that, because in the high end, when you carry a line, at least the way we do it, the investment is really big. I don't just bring in 1 or 2 products. I tend to bring in most of the range. So it gets very expensive. Anyway, let me go through some of the things that I really like and why I like them and why you might also feel the same way as well. So starting with speakers. I like the B&W, the 800 series. Now again, as I've said to you, my love-hate relationship, or the good, bad, and ugly with B&W, I can't talk about the lower series because I don't have as much experience with those in the last little while. Whereas I come across the 800 series on a regular basis because many of our clients have them. And we sell a lot of products to these same clients, so I get a lot of experience with them. The 800 series represents good performance. Not necessarily amazing performance for the money, but certainly good. The other thing I love about it is that they're certainly very well made. One thing about Bowers & Wilkins, they tend to consistently make use of many of the cutting edge materials and technologies, and they're certainly very well made. There's no doubt about it. The other reason I like Bowers & Wilkins is that from a business standpoint, purely a business standpoint, it's like a money printer. All you have to say to somebody is that, yes, we carry Bowers & Wilkins, and they'll show up, right? At least that's been my experience. And from a purely business standpoint, you need cash flow, you need sales. So there's no doubt about it. It's like selling Sony all those years ago. Again, for those of you who are old enough like me, there was a time where if you were selling TVs and you mentioned you sold Sony, people would buy it, right? It could be more expensive than the competition like Sharp, and back when LG wasn't a thing and Samsung was definitely not a thing. You had Sharp and Toshiba and all these other brands, but Sony was the one that everybody wanted. And if you sold Sony, ka-ching, ka-ching, it would just sell itself. So Bowers & Wilkins is a line that I have a lot of respect for. Audio Research, my goodness. What a great brand in terms of performance, in terms of just what it brings to the table. Wonderful clarity and transparency, wonderful detail, beautiful soundstage, beautiful depth, musicality. I like the brand and what it stands for. It's another great line. I can't tell you that I know all the very latest models, but everything I've ever owned or heard at these clients' homes, I've always enjoyed. That's another brand that I really like, but we don't represent. EMM Labs. I've heard 2 of their top series products at 2 different clients' homes, and in both systems, their digital products are wonderful. For those of you who don't know, Ed Meitner, the man behind the products, was one of the key guys behind the SACD technology that we know today. Just a wonderfully smart guy that makes really good products. Again, products that we don't carry, but I have tremendous respect for. Here's another one, Steinheim speakers. Every time I've heard them, they just communicate this very lucid sound, very clear, transparent. They're almost like the speaker version of audio research, if I can say that. Just a clear, transparent window on the music. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful speakers. And the other thing that's nice about them is that they are a simple form factor. They don't look complicated. They don't look crazy. They're not difficult to work with. So for most people, this is a speaker that you could probably buy and enjoy tremendously. Again, another product that we don't carry, but every time I've heard it, I've always enjoyed. Griffin Audio. Griffin, I've owned many different Griffin pieces from, I want to say, the early 90s on. I've always enjoyed my time with them. The earlier Griffins definitely sounded more dark, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but always sounded a bit dark to me, but never in any way, shape, or form that took away from my enjoyment of the music. I love the way they looked. I love the kind of macho, magnificent build quality that it always seemed to evoke and represent. I like the way that they look tremendously. And of course, the new series, I haven't, I shouldn't say that. I have heard the Apex and the Commander at a client's house. He was living in the States and he brought a set back and invited me to his house to listen to it. He bought a pair of Wilson speakers from us, and so I had the pleasure of listening to it. Anyway, I'll talk about that another time, but it sounded wonderful. So Griffin is another product that we don't carry, but I have tremendous respect for. Now, we're going to talk about two products that were two lines that we're going to bring in. I'm very, very excited. One is Accuphase. Again, longtime viewers of the channel will remember about a year and a half ago, we did an unboxing of an Accuphase product, and then we never talked any more about it. Part of that was because the then distributor and ourselves couldn't come to a mutual agreement about what our needs were and what we wanted to see happen in terms of distribution. So let me elaborate a little bit. I'm of the firm belief that when you own your business, you should run it the way you should, and same with me. In other words, if you're the distributor and I'm the retailer, I may have my concerns and you as a distributor will have yours. And if we can come to an agreement, then we should be able to work together. But if we can't, then that's okay too. You have every right to run your business the way you want, and I have every right to run the business that I see. And at the time, we couldn't come to an agreement, and that was okay. To this day, we're very good friends, and we just couldn't agree to the way that we wanted it done. Anyways, fast forward, the new distributor for Accuphase and I got together. We hashed out what we needed to see from each other, and we came to a wonderful agreement where it made sense. And so I'm very, very happy and excited to announce that we will have Accuphase shortly. It will probably arrive in January, now that it's already mid-December, so I doubt that we'll see it. But we will have all of the integrated amplifiers. We will have a good sampling of the separate preamps and the amplifiers and so on. So very excited to represent Accuphase and compare, and then be able to demonstrate and compare them for you. So in the store we will have the equivalent of Accuphase for American companies like the Macintosh, and then of course the Accuphase, which is the analog of Japanese electronics. We'll have both, so you can hear them for yourself and see which one you prefer. And so anyway, stay tuned. It'll be coming soon. Now, the other line that we're getting in is Daniel Herz. Let me talk a little bit about Daniel Herz. So Mark Levinson, as many of you will know, came out with the Mark Levinson brand back in the early 70s. Mark, some of you may not know, was the person responsible for the mixing board for the Woodstock event back in the 60s. And one thing about Mark is that he's always had this vision of manufacturing and designing the very best possible, not just in terms of electronics, but also the way the chassis is built, the way that the lettering is done on the chassis, the way the volume controls feel, the switches feel. And that's why his products are still in such high demand, products that were under his tenure. So the early Mark Levinsons are still very much in demand. The ML2s, for example, the LMP1, all of those products are still very much in demand. The cello products, which he subsequently formed, the company Cello, he had this desire to build, again, the very best possible. And so to this day, cello electronics are hard to come by, and the ones that are in great shape are always sell very, very quickly. So that's Mark Levinson's philosophy of design. And then he subsequently started Red Rose. And with Red Rose, he decided to take, I think, a bit of a detour. Not only did he offer many of the very best products, but he also started to offer more affordable products. What I can say is that the other Red Rose products were wonderful. The speakers with the ribbons, the side-firing woofers, we sold lots of those, and clients loved them. So anyway, fast forward, I had kept an eye on Mark Levinson, the man, and what he had been up to for many years. When he started Daniel Herz and he had moved the company to Switzerland, he invited me 1 year to the CES, when I was going to CES, to come to his suite to listen to his new products. And at the time he had the M1 speakers with the matching electronics, and as is typical of Mark Levinson products, incredibly dynamic. Very, very powerful, very punchy, dynamics like the live event. I was very impressed. The problem was, at the time, I had already made so much commitments to many different brands, I just didn't have the cash flow to do it. And so we didn't do any business together. Anyway, over time, he continued to develop his Daniel Herz line. And fairly recently, about 2-3 months ago, he reached out to me and said, let's have a conversation. So we started that conversation, and I was very excited to find out that he had this new line of electronics that was simpler. So it was an integrated amplifier called the Maria, with one floor standing speaker and a bookshelf speaker. Not inexpensive. First thing I will tell you, not inexpensive. But from what I can tell, built with the same kind of attention to quality and detail that Mark has always insisted on. So normally I don't order products without samples first, and I'll buy samples. But because it is Mark, and I know that he has never let me down as far as sound quality of products that I've owned and sold in the past, I decided I'm going to try it. So I've become a dealer for Daniel Herz for Canada. We should be getting our shipment this week, I hope. I will let you know what I think. Very honestly, as you know, if you've watched my videos in the past, I don't pull punches. If I like I'll tell you what I like, and I'll tell you what I don't like. But for those of you who don't know about Daniel Herz, there are a couple of YouTube videos. Steve Huff, I believe, did a great job of explaining what Daniel Herz is about, and he gives his opinions. To be completely frank, I didn't know about his videos when I was researching Daniel Herz. And then when I became a dealer and I typed into YouTube to look at Daniel Herz, his videos popped up, and I thought, wow, this is great. Talk about coincidence. And I started watching, and I was even more excited after hearing how Steve enjoyed the products. There's a lot of content about Daniel Herz on YouTube, especially on the early products. And there's even a couple of videos where they played, Mark plays the trumpet, and he also records a cellist, if I remember correctly, and then plays it back on his speakers. And you can hear what they sound like, even as badly as it might be through YouTube. And the reason that we don't do sound samples is because ultimately, you're recording through speakers, and then you're going through microphones and then playing back through speakers again. It's just not going to be what it should. But even with that, you could hear the difference between the live cello itself and then through the speakers. Play through headphones, it'll be more accurate. And you can tell there's not a lot of difference between the two. And so I would recommend that you watch some of these Daniel Herz videos, but also there are some videos where Mark is being interviewed, and there are some very interesting interviews as well. So anyway, I'm very excited for both Accuphase and Daniel Herz, and there'll be more to come in the new year if all goes well. So, thanks for watching. Very long video, unfortunately, for those of you who suffer through my verbosity. But I'm always grateful that you watch it, and I would love to see your comments about the products, your lines that you think we should look at in the future, or lines that you really, really like but I didn't mention, and what you think about the two lines that we're getting in, the Accuphase and the Daniel Herz. I would love to read your comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.